Hello, welcome to Balisong Meet the Maker. I am your host, Chell Wong, and today we have Buffalo Dingus's chair. We have Buffalo Dingus, also known for his company Tormentum knives. Buffalo Dingus has made the Azoth, which is a Balisong that is not quite yet in production, but it has been teased for a while, as well as some other designs in the works, I believe. Is that correct?
Yeah, I've got a few things I'm working on at various stages of completion.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on. How are you doing today?
I'm okay. How are you doing?
I'm all right. Today's work day was a little slow, but so goes, I suppose. My first question, this is actually going to be double for you, but I always like to ask people, how'd you get your name? You have two names. You have your Buffalo Dingus name, but then you also have your company name, Tormentum Knives, correct?
Yeah. With the whole Buffalo Dingus thing is, um, when I've been into Bow songs for a long time, but there was a hiatus somewhere in there where I kind of fell out of it, and around the time when I got back into it, which was like 2020, 2021, something like that. I was browsing Reddit a lot and was thinking, oh, I might want to actually like comment on shit and post stuff. Who knows? But my username on Reddit was like too personally identifiable, or at least what I used for everything else. So I thought, well, I need to make just some gibberish username that has nothing to do with me because it doesn't matter anyway. So I just
Yeah.
thought I'll take the first two words I think of that are unrelated and sound funny, and I'll just mash those together, and that'll be my username. And for some reason, Buffalo Dingus were the first two words I thought of,
That's
and I
hilarious,
made that
actually.
username, and now I'm doing all this shit. Um, and I very, very much regret putting so little thought into my username. Now that I have to, walk up to people at Blade Show and say who I am, things like that.
How long have you been into Balisongs? You said before 2020. And
So
yeah.
I got into them when I was like, if I have to guess, I would say I really got into them somewhere around 2013, something like that.
All right. Wow, 2013 you said? That is that's quite a while. I feel like I feel like you're pretty recognizable in the community. It's certainly a name. Also, like, what's funny to me is that your like profile picture on Instagram is just macaroni and has nothing to do with either. But with Buffalo, I guess Dingus. I don't know if it's a real thing. I always think of Dingus being like a silly insult, like yeah, Dingus. So you came up with Buffalo Dingus. How did you come up with Tormentum, or I guess Azoth?
So the way I arrived at Azoth, which is came before Tormentum, is I was thinking, okay, I want a name that's short, hasn't been used before as far as I know, and sounds, decent and is obvious how to pronounce to some extent. Because I didn't want it to get abbreviated to something stupid. So I was like, well, it's got to be short, one or two syllables. And so I started just looking through dictionaries and things like that, looking for words with cool letters in them. And then I stumbled upon the word Azoth, and I'm like, oh, Z. Who doesn't like Z's? What the hell does that mean? I need to look it up before I find out it's like, Colombian porn torture thing. I don't know. So I need to find out what it is before I put that on something. And so I looked it up, and it turned out to be this like medieval alchemy thing of like a substance everybody thought was like miracle drug, and it turned out it was just like liquid mercury or something. And I thought, oh, that's kind of symbolic of, you know, oh, this knife's gonna be the best thing ever, even though it's just another fucking knife at the end of the day, and there's nothing special about it. So I thought, well, that's the perfect name. And then for the like brand name, I was thinking, well, what can I do for that? I mean, I hate that I even feel like I should put some brand on it. It feels kind of cringy, but I got to do it just to keep things consistent. And I ended up thinking, well, let me pick something that fits with the vibe of Azoth. So I decided to just translate my last name into Latin. So my last name is Cannon, like, Cannon, thing that
Oh,
goes
okay.
boom. And it came up with Tormentum. And I thought, well, that sounds pretty good. I think I'll just go with that. So I just went with it. And that's what that is.
Cannon's already a cool sounding name, and I mean, I know that I assume you didn't want to use Buffalo Dingus because it's like goofy sounding. I don't know, actually.
It's goofy, it's a little long, and I don't know, I didn't really want that attached to me forever.
That's
Even
fair.
though it probably is going to be no matter what at this point, I'll just own it.
I
But
know that a lot of makers so NRB stands for not a real boy.
yeah.
I asked him why that nickname exists, I believe, at least. That should be in his episode. There's some other ones. I don't know what LDY stands for. I believe it's like the Chinese names, each word, but I don't know what the words are. And then there's other ones like I'm trying to think of what other like compressed names, because I was like, you could do like BD. There's a BRS.
Yeah.
Benchmade is usually shortened to BM.
Mm-hmm.
But like, yeah, I mean, you could do BD or whatever. Dingus alone in of itself, like Buffalo, I think is kind of like fun. Like, the Buffalo Azoth. But now it is Tormentum.
Yeah.
Certainly Dingus is a little goofy to be like, yeah, this is a high boutique item designed by Dingus.
Yeah, the other reason why I didn't want to just abbreviate Buffalo Dingus is I was a little worried that social media sites might block me more because of it. Because dingus I think could be used to mean like dick or something. So just trying to be a little bit future proof in that regard.
I guess I want to get into asking you about making Balisongs. Now, normally when I have guests on, most of my guests have been in the industry at least for a hot minute, and have at least one knife in full production. But I am borrowing this from Ted Flips. Thank you, Ted. And speaking of the Azoth, for a while I remember people referring to this as the Dingus. I guess, can you tell me the story of the Azoth, how it came to be, and bringing it around at Blade shows? Because I'm curious.
So the timeline of that is basically a few years ago. I had been into Balisongs for a long time. I had started posting photos on the subreddit and commenting on things, and I eventually made that Instagram account because people kept asking me if I was on Instagram. And a little tangent is the macaroni picture was just a placeholder at first until I thought of what else to do, and then I ended up just leaving it. But anyway, so after a while, people would mention like, you should design one. I want to see what you would make because I have a lot of Balisongs, and I would every once in a while have these thoughts of like, oh, what if I had one that was this shape but this size and had this feature and that feature, like putting those things together that other people aren't doing. And so I was like, oh, maybe I should design something and figure out how to do that. So I would poke around in like Fusion 360 and do some things here and there, but I did not go very far with it, even though I had some ideas. And then NRB posted that he would do 3D modeling for people if you wanted. So I thought, well, you know what? Let me kickstart this, get something going, so that I'm a little more motivated. So I went to him and I paid him and I gave him a mile-long list of measurements and things that I wanted, and I said, "Can you just put this into 3D for me?" And so we went back and forth and did that, and then we got the first iteration of it together, and then I spent like almost a year contacting machine shops, emailing people, messaging people, calling people, and never getting anywhere. Nobody wanted to make it, which is kind of still an issue I'm having. But then I was talking to somebody else. I won't say who, just because it kind of fell through, and they were interested in making it. And I thought, ooh, Blade Show's coming up. I should, and if they're gonna make it, what if this design sucks? I need to have something in my hands before I make like 20 of these, dump my life savings into it. So I found some machine shop in China, and sent them the files and was like, please make me one of these. I need it to be this and that and this and that. And so I got one together, and it had a bunch of issues, and it's actually this one. Looks a little different than the current one.
Ooh.
The issues have been fixed with it, but I wasn't totally happy with it, but it did flip okay. Yeah, so that's the first one, and everything kind of fell through and it didn't get made, but I got to see how it flipped. So then I thought, well, I want to make some changes because I'm not 100% happy with it. So I talked to NRB again, and then we worked on a second version, which is... Well, actually, I guess before this, I'm just kind of talking off the top of my head. I didn't prepare anything or study. So I took the first one to Blade Show, and I only let a couple people flip it. I didn't really tell people who I was. And I got some good feedback. Well, not really that much feedback, but people liked it. And I thought, you know what? I'm gonna post a picture of it. I just feel like I want to now because I thought it was going to get made. But when I was about to post it, I thought, well, if you Google this, I don't want the shitty prototype one to come up. I want a nice one to come up. So I'm not going to put the name on the post yet. So I just did question marks instead of the name, thinking, oh, in like a couple months, I'll have a nicer one to post. And then that turned into over a year later, still not showing the name. And that's why it has a few nicknames that people gave it, like Dingus and whatnot.
So in my unboxing video, I was like, I think he's made a previous knife called the Dingus, and little did I know that it was actually just the Azoth pre-name.
Yeah, it was just the Azoth, but when I posted it, I just did question marks, so nobody knew what the hell it was called. And also that way it gave me a little bit of time to decide if I hated the name.
Fair enough.
But yeah, so then I worked with NRB on a second version that's a little different. Not that different.
Is that the one I have? Or am I later?
No, you have what is like the fourth version of it.
Oh, okay. Keep going then.
So I got this one together, tried a few things out, and didn't really like it. And I kept thinking, you know, I want to change certain things about it that will make it kind of a pain in the ass I have to like redo it from scratch. And it's kind of hard to communicate the things that I want different.
Sure, yeah.
So I ended up deciding, well, I guess I'm just going to have to do it myself then. Not like any problem with NRB. It's just like, how can you communicate exactly how you want something to look down to, you know, tiny details.
Yeah, that's
so I
fair.
decided, you know, I'll just start over completely and try doing it myself. And so I did that. And that's this one, which looks a lot more like the one that you have.
That's the V3-ish?
Yeah.
I'd love to see the V1 and the V4 next to each other once you get to there.
Sure. Well, so I did that one. And this one I actually got a few made, not just one. So there's a couple of these floating around out there. There's only 2 that other people have, and then I have a second one sitting around. And then I decided to make some tweaks to it. The handle gap was a little bit narrow, and there wasn't enough end weight in the handles. So this is the fourth one, and this is the one that I sold a few of, like maybe 7 or 8, something like that. And so this is what you're holding. The blade's actually totally unchanged from the last one. But, so this is like the first one on the right and the current one on the left. You can see it's different.
Huh. They do look pretty similar, though. It is at least still like the same design.
Yeah, definitely the same design, but some important differences. But what's funny is they actually flip really similar. It's mostly aesthetic differences, and then getting them to be more tunable, because I was running into a lot of little issues they weren't coming out that nice, and it was a huge headache.
Consistency's a bitch.
Yeah, definitely. So that's the Azoth and its timeline, basically. I mean, I got this one before Blade Show last year, but I had the design together in like June of 2022.
Okay.
And then these are pretty recent.
So I was gonna ask you. So wait, the first one was 2022?
Yeah. I had the design done in 2022 for this one, and nobody saw it until 2023.
So mine right now is still a proto. Well, it's not even mine. The one I currently own or have. Jeez, I'm sorry, Ted. I'm not stealing this. I wanna, but this one is still a prototype, correct?
Yeah, I still consider them all prototypes because they're kind of rough and unfinished, and I'm still tweaking things, and I still want somebody else to make them and do a better job, and so nothing's like 100% set, final, you know.
Do you have an estimate of when it will be like production? Because I do not know the average time. I should be asking this to other people, but like, what? I don't know how long it takes on average to like get from design to like full production. So, and is there a timeline for the future, or is it still kind of up in the air?
Not There isn't really a timeline. I've kind of not I don't want to say given up on production with air quotes, but I'm I don't really have the money to do huge batches of things, and I don't have
Sure.
a solid shop that I can trust lined up to do that and do it right. So at the moment, I've been kind of coasting along with coming up with some stuff, getting a few made, and then if I like it, selling the extras. And that's probably just how I'm going to keep going for now.
That's fair. I guess one thing I'm also curious is like the Azoth is really it's really long. It's I I don't currently have a machine wise knife next to me, but I feel like this is one of the longest Balisongs I've flipped. Is there a reason for that? And is there any other element about this that you feel like that you wanted to see that hasn't been made before? I also really like this bite indicator. I feel like the only other Balisong maker that does something like this that you can visibly see on the horn is Black Balisong. I think that's this is a little neat detail, but I guess what is in the Azoth that you wanted to manifest that hasn't already been done, or at least was something that you wanted to do in your own way?
That's a great question. It's not so much of like a thing that nobody had done. It's more so just putting certain things together, but then also once I started actually having them in my hands, it ended up just being kind of a little weird to flip, and me
Hmm.
deciding I actually kind of like that it's different and weird. And I think
Okay.
that's a lot more interesting than trying to make the best thing, with air quotes, because there's really no such thing.
Sure.
And yeah, the bite indicator, that is, I definitely got that idea from Black Balisong. When I got my Reaper, I thought, oh, that's genius. Why isn't everybody doing that? So I
Right?
thought I'll do something similar, but not the same way. And so that's why it's a little hole.
That's cute, and I love it, and I appreciate it. I noticed it. I don't know if anyone else is noticing this, but let it be known that at least I go. More people should be doing this. Um, so I guess this is a project of passion, and we have yet to have a secured line to the finish line in terms of production. I guess what is something that you need for that to happen, and what are these challenges that you're getting snagged on in terms of like preventing this from happening? Because I don't know if you plan on doing this to be like a business, but obviously if you want it to be a business, then money has to be made, and I'm just curious how things are going for you and what's causing the troubles that you might be facing.
So the biggest hurdle I would say to getting to, well, I guess, production would be having somebody who can make the parts exactly how they need to be made consistently.
Mm,
And that's pretty hard to come by. A lot of people who are popping up wanting to design stuff these days, they don't actually know all of the little details and measurements and tolerances and specs and things like that for what needs to be right for a Balisong to be good. And it really shouldn't be that difficult, but it just kind of is because I mean, who can make one well? Well, people who make Balisongs already, but most of them aren't really willing to do it for other people, or they just don't have the time, you know.
yeah.
But even though that's the main hurdle, that finish line isn't really there for me. It's moved around a little bit, but I never really had plans to do it as a business. It's really, I'm not making a lot of money on this. I'm
Yeah.
pushing the prices to be as low as I can while me not like losing all of my money.
Which was also lower than I thought. I thought it was like, my brain was like, oh, geez, what? Maybe it was like 600, and you told me it was actually. Can you repeat for me actually what it was?
Yeah, so the prototypes from the last batch that I sold at Blade Show, those were 450 each.
450 for this. It's a pretty good price. It's a pretty good price indeed. Obviously, pushing it up means that you have a better margin, but it's obviously more expensive. So, there's always that fine balance of like what is what is it to what's the ideal price that you should be putting on things. Um, so I guess you have other designs, and I'm curious, what are your plans for those? Are there any plans, or is it just going to be um conceptual?
Yeah, so I have a couple other things I'm working on and some other things that I did but are not currently working on. Uh, there's pretty much nothing that anybody's seen that's going to remain a concept. But so I guess the other things I've done are I did a reblade for the Sentinel, and the reason I did that is because Jimpy sold those extra handles
Do
after he was
you
done doing
have that
the
reblade?
I do. I have
Okay.
one right here.
Hey, oh, right. Yes, of course. I remember Ted posting. Yes, it was, or maybe Ted was posting about it too. Ted is posting about something always. Shout outs to Ted. Hi, Ted.
Yeah, so I
but
did that reblade because the extra handles are sold, and I thought, oh, this will be a good way for me to practice designing something and making it where I know at least half the knife should be good already. And so I made 5 of those, and then uh, people seemed to be interested in them, so I did another batch of 20. So there's 25 Sentinel reblades out there total. I probably won't make any more just because I don't know if anybody wants them, and wouldn't really make sense for me to make like one more because then the price for that one blade would be astronomical.
oh wow, okay.
But if enough people wanted them, I'm not going to artificially make them scarce. It's just there just isn't that much demand for a blade for a knife that's out of production.
Yeah, not
So
to mention just the cost of making things is expensive, and
yeah,
you can't really put on all this weight to like make this product that may or may not sell, and so it's not like artificial scarcity; it's real scarcity.
yeah, exactly. It's just if there's no demand, it doesn't really make sense for me to get more things made.
Yeah,
So yeah, it's I'm not closing the door on it, but I don't think I will be making any more Sentinel blades.
yeah, reasonable.
Um,
I actually recently got a Sentinel trainer, which I'm really excited because apparently he made. I don't know if he's made more than one, but who I bought it from, Cream Soda, took it to Gruff Claw to get these speed channels done, as well as this jimping. I accidentally misspoke because I remember there being jimping, but this is Gruff Claw's work. But I actually prefer how it flips like the stock way. I'm like, well, where the fuck am I just gonna get stock Sentinel handles with this lasering? So now I'm just like, does anyone want speed channeled handles? Because I don't. That's an awkward whole thing about itself. So obviously making things and having it to be people's preferences and then keeping up with it, especially for a discontinued knife, that's not a good business plan. It doesn't have a lot of runway. So I guess what else do you have to show?
so the other complete knife design that people have seen a little bit of, I hadn't shared the name before, but the name kind of got out there, so I'm just not going to worry about it. It's the Vitriol. I have 2 versions of that right now on me. The first version is not bad, but not how I want it to be. That is this one right here.
Oh, I've never seen this before. Tell me more. That looks cool.
So it's just, another knife, and it's titanium and whatnot. Um, just had an idea a long time ago about for a blade that I thought looked kind of cool. So I drew it up in like Microsoft Paint, and then when I was messing around, designing, redoing the Azoth myself from scratch, I thought, well, let me try designing that other blade that I had been thinking about. And then I came up with some handles for it, and I got one made, and I thought, wow, this is heavy and long, and I don't think I want this design to be heavy and long. So I decided I'll kind of revamp it, shorten it up a little bit, lighten it up a lot, and then I got to the second version right here, which
Okay.
looks really similar, which it should, but it doesn't really flip that well because there's like no end weight. It's really blade biased. It kind of sucks.
No, blade bias. How heavy
Yeah.
was it before, and how heavy is this version?
So the first one was like, I actually have the numbers right here. Let me pull that up. The first one was 4.73 ounces, and the second one was 4.27.
Wow, that's a big jump in weight. 4.73, you said?
Yeah,
That's
so
hefty.
It lost like half an ounce, a little more than that. Mostly, most of the weight change is actually like in the channels and stuff. It's kind of hard to see.
Okay.
It's not on the surface.
Which one's the first one and second one?
First one here, second one
Gotcha.
here. You can see the channels got a lot wider.
Oh yeah, and
That's the main thing.
much more materials carved out.
But the balance sucks. So I actually am just sitting on these prototypes going, man, I don't like these. I don't think I want to sell these to people because they kind of suck. So we'll see. I might do something with them. I might not. But I'm currently working on a third version, trying to tweak it and get it to feel right. I want to keep the lower weight, but I want it to not be blade biased and have no momentum. So still working on it.
Yeah.
Another thing I'm working on that a couple people saw at Blade Show. So right now it's a rehandle for a rep, but I want to do a blade also, so it's a complete knife. But I don't have a blade yet. I'm still working on the design. And so these are the handles right now. And they'll probably change a little bit, but the channel kind of gold dust inspired because people keep trying to buy my handles and I don't want to sell them.
That is a nice set. I really enjoy how that's designed. Are people buying your handles for what?
So I have a set of gold dust rep handles.
Okay, yeah.
And I don't know how many there are, but it seems to be not very many. And I get a lot of people trying to buy them off of me, and I don't want to sell them. So I thought, well, maybe I'll make something similar.
Okay.
So that's kind of the thing that started that one off. And then another thing that I think I can show, because I think Ted has shown it off, is Ted asked me to help him do a reblade for a Sagea.
Ted guy, yeah.
And so I have one myself.
All right.
So that's what that looks like.
You're not machining these yourself, right? You're taking this to... Okay.
Yeah, I'm contracting them out to some shop.
Okay.
So that's that. There's a couple other things that I'm involved in, but I don't know if I can talk about because they're like other people's projects, and I don't know what they want told about them. Yeah, so I think that's everything I've got to show in terms of like stuff I've designed.
All right. What would you say is the hardest part of your process of designing and making Balisongs? It seems to me that you've at least gone through 4 iterations of the Azoth. You've gone through 2 iterations at least for the Vitriol, and it seems that between V1 and V2 of those protos of the Vitriol they both have their own problems for very different reasons. So I mean, I'm inferencing something, but I guess what would you say is one of or some of the hardest things about designing and making Balisong?
Well, I think probably the hardest thing is getting stuff made right, because you can design something perfectly and send it to a shop, and what you get is not what you put down for all the numbers, because I mean shit just doesn't come out exactly the same every time. It's just not how the world works. But finding a shop that'll do it reliably, but then also working around the issues that you will have from that shop and things like that. like a big hurdle that I've had that has been really kind of eye opening is bushing sizes,
Oh yeah.
because people think of bushings as like 1/4 inch, 0.25 for the outer diameter, but that's not the whole story, because your hole should be about 0.25, but the outer diameter of the bushing varies depending on who's making them, and not everybody shoots for the same number. So you can be
Yeah.
buying bushings from one company thinking they'll fit, but they won't. They'll be too small, they'll be too big. And so that's been a huge thing that I finally managed to get through. Like, for example, the third iteration of the Azoth, you can see that they're not really tuned well,
Oh
and
yeah,
they
that's a rough
cannot be
tune.
tuned well
No,
because of
because
some
of
issues with like channel gap and bushing diameter and all that. But then on the most current ones, these can actually be tuned pretty well. There's like
okay, yeah,
barely
yeah.
any play.
I feel like this tune is actually really rock solid, and I mean, I really enjoy flipping this. I'm just like, holy shit. And I'm flipping this with the zippy inserts in, and I find that this is actually a very subtle, but like a difference that I really enjoy. And without inserts, it's really good too. But yeah, bushings are a bitch.
Yeah, I mean, the amount of precision you need is just, it's ridiculous. And a good tune is something that's always been important to me.
Oh,
So
for
that's been
sure.
something that's been, a huge thing in the stuff I've been working on, is trying to get it to come out.
Yeah, I
And then the whole thing with like me not really trying that hard to, I'm really doing a terrible job of it if I was, of making money doing this. One piece of, one example of that is I decided to make stickers very early on in this,
all right.
and I spent so much money in stickers trying to get them to come out right when I really didn't need to. I had this idea for a sticker that I thought was pretty cool with like the logo that I was going to use that's on the first Azoth, but then I decided to just not bother with. And so I had Hana Toadstool draw it up, and then
Oh
I
yeah, I love her.
paid, yeah, she's a friend of mine, she's pretty cool.
Yeah, she's sweet.
And I paid a company to make those stickers, but I didn't think they looked good enough. So then I paid another company to make them, and I didn't like how they came out. So then I paid a third company to make them, and they were good, but they were kind of cropped. So then I paid them to do it again. And so I spent like hundreds of dollars on stickers that, I mean, they're just fucking stickers. They don't really need to look that good, but I really
Yeah.
wanted them to look cool because they're black and holographic and whatnot.
Oh,
And so
I was
I throw one in with the knives when people buy them, but I really
I
did not need to
yeah.
dump that much money on stickers and have a bunch sitting here that I thought weren't good enough.
I have not seen the sticker. I do not know what your logo looks like, but I do really appreciate this box. I think this box is really cool. I think Static Knives has a holographic sticker that's quite nice. But yeah, I don't know what the logo is. You'll have to send me a picture so I can see. But yeah, hundreds of dollars on certainly a good number of them not being usable. That's kind of a bummer, dude.
Yeah, I mean they're fine, really, but they're not right. They don't look exactly how I wanted them to look. And so I've given a couple away, and I might give the rest away at some point. But now I got the ones that do look good, so I want to give people those. I want those to be on stuff. But
Yeah.
yeah, I just waste a bunch of money on that. In fact, speaking of the box, I've gone through a few different box designs. It just, I put way too much effort into these boxes, but I kind of enjoy it. And
They're quite nice, actually.
the next batch will actually have another different box design that
Oh
costs me
boy.
like twice as much to make as those, just because it's cool. I would show it, but I kind of want it to be a surprise to whoever buys
Okay.
one and gets it. But
All
it's
right, show
cool.
me off camera, or show me
Okay.
after we record.
Okay, I'll check.
But yeah, so why is it twice as? I mean, I guess you said it was a secret, but there's definitely a lot in balancing a business. I am my own business. I don't have physical products. I am a service. I write music, but it is definitely possible to lose yourself. The devil's in the details is one way. That's a saying, but I feel like that I'm kind of using it a different way in that like um cost efficiency for boxes being twice as much does of course cut your margins. It does make things harder, and stickers, while cool, also I Ted keeps sending me his stickers every time we exchange Balisongs, which is not too infrequent in that I have enough Ted stickers, zippy stickers, which I guess makes more sense because it is a he's selling things, and so it comes along. He also can just sell stickers individually, which I don't know if anyone buys stickers by themselves. But I need every time I buy from Zippy, I need to just be like, "Hey, man, you can save money on your stickers because I already have so many.
Oh
I've
yeah, I
already
have
I
so
already filled
many
my
Zippy
case.
stickers. I keep buying his spacers because they're so good,
Oh, they're
and
so
I just
good.
have so many fucking Zippy stickers here, and
Once
those
again,
pouches and stuff like that.
yeah, at least I feel like pouches are decent in terms of like, oh, I want to do a temp trade. I don't
Yeah.
want to like get all these thick boxes, but I could do pouches, and it protects them from getting scuffed in the mail. Whereas stickers, I only have so many surfaces to smack. I'm so curious about your box. I'm like, is it worth to have a box twice as expensive? Because I don't know how expensive it is to produce this box. I already think this box is good. So now I'm really curious about this next one, which I guess I'll see off the air, or you could show me now and then I can splice that out of the video and then I can make my comments. Up to
Yeah, if
you.
you want. I can show you. I also have a couple extras of the previous box design because what's funny is I was
Yeah.
making a certain design of box, and then I decided I would update the box to be nicer, and I had already made the boxes for the last batch of Azoth, but I decided, oh, but I like these boxes so much better, so I just made them anyway, and I just ended up with a bunch of extra boxes that I can't really use for anything else because they're so specific to that knife. So I have a couple extras. This is the box from before that one, where it's a rectangle and it's got an insert that slides out
All right.
like that. Oh, and there's the sticker.
Oh. Whoa. That's
But
their logo?
yeah, it was actually on the first Azoth. It was right there.
Huh. What does that mean? Does that logo mean something, or is it just like
It does, but I think it'd be funnier if I just never tell anybody. So I'm not going to. So that was that design, and then I decided, oh, what if I switch this because these walls are kind of weak here, and I didn't like that. And I thought, well, I can make it go either way if I flipped it and made, the guides on the box instead of the other way around. And so that's the one that you have.
So he just showed me the future version, which I'm not going to spoil. One of the things he did mention though was being able to fit the sticker in this section, which is fine. I think the new version looks cool, which I'm not going to spoil, but is it worth the cost of manufacturing? Like, because you said twice, but how much does it cost to produce a box?
I think I estimated those boxes, like the one you have, was like $4 or $5 in materials to print,
Okay,
something like, or like maybe $3 or $4, something around there. Not
sure.
crazy. But then making it more complex and then making it 3 pieces
Cooler.
instead of two, and adding colors and whatnot, that just adds a lot of cost to it. But I don't know. I want it to be as cool and good as possible. I want people to feel good when they open the box because they've just gambled some money on some asshole who doesn't really know what he's doing. So it's worth it to me, even though it doesn't really add anything to the value of what you're getting.
It is
It's cooler.
nice. Packaging is helpful. It is part of the process. Some people do rate the unboxing experience, which to me is kind of a one and done thing. But I do like this box, and also, some asshole who doesn't really know anything, you can reduce the risk of spending money and taking a gamble on some asshole who doesn't know anything by going to some other asshole to review the knife and share their opinion on the first asshole not knowing what they're doing. Subscribe to me. But yeah, I mean, this is a project of passion, and as you said yourself, that you're not trying to make this a business, right? It's not a goal of yours. It's more just a hobby, an expensive hobby. I mean, collecting Balisong is expensive.
Yeah, very expensive hobby.
But oh my god, don't I? I'm trying to sell knives, buy my knives. But I mean, if it's important to you, if this is a thing, like we've seen, Acid Works's package for the Zyzix. There is so much that goes into the Zyzix box.
Crazy, like the wood, and then it comes with a soundtrack and everything.
I
That's awesome.
know. At least the soundtrack he's done once. I don't, if he makes more tracks, it's for everyone. But as much as I love the box, I haven't looked at it in however many months it's been since I've owned the Zyzix. The there's like the polishing cloth. I do not know if it's actually for polishing, because it has like printed on it like the moons that is part of the whole motif. There's the leather sheath, which is gorgeous, and at least some people will get usage out of. But like, I feel like, besides the knife being absolutely incredible, and also, and again, my opinion of the Azoth is that I'm a big fan, and I would like to own one of these hopefully someday. I think most people agree that the Zyzix is, at least, if not like something that they love, is something that is respectable and objectively good in the ways that most people can agree on. But the unboxing experience is certainly, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive how much work he put into the unboxing for that. One of these days I'll get a Zyzix. I do not have one, but when I flipped one at Blade Show last year, I really liked it. So I totally get why everybody likes it.
Yeah. Also, Paul's just such a nice guy.
Definitely.
Again, he was my first ever guest on this, and people, I remember when I was talking about this, some people were like, "Didn't Damn Right I Got Knives also do interviews?" And like, I just kind of ran it by him. I'm like, "Oh, did you do interviews before?" He's like, "I don't care, but like, you do yours too. They're all different." And he's just super nice and supportive. Is there anything that you would like to tell our listeners? I know you've already shown some things with the vitriol. I have no idea if that was ever publicly shown before, but is there anything that you want to tell people, whether it's like a teasing for thing, announcement, or just your thoughts on anything?
I don't really think so. Honestly, I'm just kind of doing my thing, and if people are interested, that's cool. That's how I've been operating. Posting pictures and designing stuff and selling it, is I'm just doing what is interesting to me. And if anybody else is interested, that's awesome.
All right. Well, thank you so much for tuning in to Balisong Meet the Makers. Thank you, Buffalo Dingus, for joining. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, click the bell, all that stuff. And more importantly, Mr. Dingus, where can people find you and your wares? I know you have an Instagram for yourself as well as for you, Tormentum. So if you have any other websites or anything else to plug, where can people find you?
That's pretty much it. I'm not a business. I'm just some dude making stuff and posting stuff. So on Reddit, Buffalo Dingus, Instagram, Buffalo Dingus, or Tormentum. Unfortunately, Tormentum.knives, because Tormentum was taken. I didn't even want knives in there, but it's there. But that's where
So
they can find
goes.
me.
All right. So, and with that, thank you so much, Mr. Dingus. It's just more fun to say Mr. Dingus. Thank you for joining me, and for everyone who has tuned in and listened to him, thank you so much for joining. Happy flipping, everyone. The Azoth is really cool, and I hope that someday anyone that wants to try one gets to try one.